welcome to another fishing basics video. There's one topic that I get messaged about almost weekly, and I think it's so unfortunate to hear and speak to people that have actually damaged their rods just through transporting them to the peg or just not being able to pack them away properly. Most of us these days, myself included, carry all our rods ready set up and take them to the bank already assembled, and it's such a fantastic time saver. It's something that I've done exclusively now for 10 years. Now, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to packing your rod away and transporting it to your peg. However, the way that I'm going to show you that I've done it for the last 10 years is a way that I haven't suffered from a single breakage. I haven't had any rods break on me in transit, so I continue to pack my rods away this way. So this is the way that I transport my rods to the peg, and I'm also going to be showing you how I store and carry my feeder rod tips. Now, I'm not saying that there's only one way of packing your rod away, but this is the way that I've done it, and I haven't had any issues, so this is obviously the way that I continue to do it. Now, before you start breaking the rod down, the first thing that you need, obviously, are to get your butt and tip protectors ready. You need something that's going to hold the rod together at the bottom and at the top of the rod. The one that I use is this one, and this is one that you can actually set to the length of your rod. So the first thing you need to do before you start breaking your rod down, because you don't want to be part breaking it down, laying it down on the ground, resting it on things that's unstable. I haven't touched the rod yet. If you use the same style as this, make sure that you've got that set at the right length of your rod. This is just going to make the final step much easier. So in this case, it's an 11-foot 3.3 meter rod, and that is what it's set at. So it's got a butt protector there, and then it's got a tip protector there. That's obviously for the tip end. Okay, so that's ready. I know that's set at the right length. So all I need to do then is, so if you get your rod, okay, now I like to leave, this is obviously all set up, it's got a rig on the end. I like to leave a drop between the tip and the actual rig. Have that at about just under a metre, so about 75-80 centimetres is enough. Okay, don't have it any shorter than that, because you will risk damaging your tip as we do the next step, because you're going to actually start pulling the line through the runners, through the guides. Okay, so before I do that, the first thing I will do is undo the drag. So you want to undo the drag so that it can actually backwind, because that way you're not going to risk damaging your tip. And all I do then is, this is a two-piece rod, which is what most people use now, particularly obviously in an 11-foot or a 3.3 meter length. All I basically do is, the first step is just simply reach up to the section where it breaks, okay, and then once that's off, I then bring that alongside the actual butt of the rod. Simple as that. And because you've left the length of line between your tip and your rig, as you can see what's left there's about 10 centimeters there, which is just enough. Okay, and by doing it this way, you're not handling the actual tip itself. Your hands are at the actual thickest end of the rod, you know, so that's going to help stop breakages. Okay, so you've obviously got your hands at this end, which is the thicker end, and then you've got your left hand there at the thicker end of the top section. Bring them together like that, side by side, and that is going to be how we're going to transport them. Okay, so then the next step then will be to get your butt protector. Slide the butt protector on the butt end of the rod, obviously, and then we can simply pass the rod back nice and safely. Your tip is protected. He's going to be against this section of the rod, so that's going to protect that, and that is where your tip section goes over, like so. And because we've got this set at the right length, that is not too tight, because if that's too tight, you could see, or you can see, sections of your rod bending. That's when it's obviously too tight, but that is the perfect length, as you can see there. Okay, and then the final step, and this is the step for actually transporting the rod. Depending on the style of reel that you've got, you're going to need to fold the handle in somehow. Okay, and on this particular reel, because I've got the drag set, I can easily move that reel to any position, as you can see, because the back wind is on. So I know what position this needs to be in. It needs to be in that position there. I can then simply, at this side, slacken or undo that handle a little bit, and that will allow that handle to fold in, and then I can just move it into position, which is about there, which is the best position for transportation. Tighten that screw back up, and that is it. That is packed, ready to go. the handle's folded in, which means that I can then put that straight in the rod bag here, okay, and that will go in there. And the way that we transport these rods is basically to top and tail them. So you've got a reel in that section there, but then in the next compartment have the reel at that end, and that's going to allow you to get more in your rod bag. It's just a really simple way of doing it, and like I say, I haven't had any problems with this. The final stage before you pack all this away is don't forget to tighten your drag back up, because that will stop it unwinding when it's in transport. It's just stop the spool going around, and that's all locked in place now, and that's ready for packing into my rod bag. Now, it's something that, it's such a basic thing, but I just hate to see people damaging their rods. You know, it's ultimately obviously going to be costing you money, and it's also going to suck a lot of the enjoyment out of your fishing as well. And then the final thing that I've been getting asked about is actually, for those people that are into feeder fishing, is how they actually carry the tips that we use for our feeder fishing. Now, you know, you just need some sort of a tube. There are tubes out there that you can get, tip tubes, and that's what I used to carry right until I got this bit of luggage here. This hold all does actually come with a protective tip sleeve, okay. Now this is part of this hold all, so this is why I don't carry a separate tube, but you can get tubes out there. You can also you could use float tubes or anything like that, but basically you need something that's hard, that's going to protect your tips. And we've got a selection of tips there, okay, and that will obviously keep them nice and protected. The best little bit of advice I can give you as well is, because these tips like these are marked on them, these are actually marked with the diameter and the actual strength, the actual material as well. In this case, these are carbon tips, 1.5 ounce, 2.8 mil. Because all that information is at the bottom end of the tip, then I find it much easier to store my tips upside down. So all the coloured tips are at that end, as you can see. So they go in first, and then it means that this end is exposed. That just means that I can quickly and easily see which tip that I need. It just speeds the process of selecting another tip. But anything like that that's a hard wearing protective tube is something that's very, very important. I know that certainly with some manufacturers, some tips now are in excess of £40 each, and that's if you can get them, you know, because they obviously aren't always in stock, even if you are willing to pay that sort of money. But obviously, you know, it's bad enough breaking tips when you're fishing, but to break them in transit is just such a shame. So I just hope that you've found this little bit of an insight into this useful. If you have, then please let me know by giving this video a nice big thumbs up, and I'll continue to produce these fishing basics videos that I know are helping a lot of people out that are new to fishing.